Hello, You-est listeners. I am so happy to be here with you. What a gift. I am really beyond excited to interview our incredible guest today. I can't wait to tell you about her and for you to get to meet Laura yourself. So let me tell you a little bit about Laura, and then you'll get to know all about her. Laura is an entertainer, celebrity psychic, actress, model, host, singer, writer, and speaker. Laura Powers is the host of the popular film and TV podcast, Behind the Scenes with Laura Powers, and her top 100 podcast on Apple Podcasts, Healing Powers podcast. She is the author of 7 books. Oh my gosh. And editing 2 other books that will be released in 2020. Holy moly. She travels full-time for clients, for television and other media appointments, and for the love of traveling. Laura has been featured on several television channels and networks, including BuzzFeed, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, the CW, Jet Set, and many others. She was recently interviewed by Will Ferrell on his podcast, the Ron Burgundy Podcast. Oh my gosh. And I just have got to say, in the time I've gotten to know you, Laura, you literally are one of the kindest, just light-filled souls I have met. And I am so excited to talk all things about you and your abilities and just get to know you better. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's such a pleasure to connect with you. I love everything you do. I love the show. I love the concept. I love the You-est. I think it's so perfect. And so it's just really an honor to be here today.
Thank you so much. Yay. Well, let's start with that, with this idea of the You-est. And what does that mean for you? Like because you, multi-passionate, luminary entrepreneur, like you fit a lot of things. So what does that mean? And maybe you can tell us a little bit, your story and how you've evolved into being, into your higher self, your You-est. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So, I think like most of us, we're born and then we go through this process of like forgetting everything we know in our soul. And then we have to go back to kind of finding it again. So just like everyone, I have gone through that process and it's a little different for me because I am very psychic, but at the same time, I still went through that journey. So my first memory is actually of the other side. So even before I remember being me, Laura, I remember the other side. I remember what I believe is the moment right before I was born. I was in a circle of white beings, and it was basically like, it's your time to go. And I remember being like, oh crap, pardon my French, because I knew this was going to be a doozy, this life. And sure enough, I was born into an abusive situation. There was definitely a fair amount of trauma, just tough life stuff. And I grew up thinking I was actually crazy because ever since I can remember, I saw things other people didn't see. And I remember asking my mom, when I think I was probably about 7 years old, if she saw things, if she knew what I was talking about, and I could just tell that she didn't based on her answer. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this isn't happening with her or anyone. And I just kept everything that I saw and sensed to myself. And I think partially because of trauma, maybe partially because of my karmic lessons, a lot of what showed up for me at first was pretty dark. I saw ghosts, I saw entities, or, what people call demons. I saw pretty intense things, even though I know that angels and light beings are around, and I did see things like that. Sometimes mostly what I was sensing and picking up were dark things. And so it was pretty intense. And I did the only thing that I knew how to do at that point in my life. It was to shut it out. And I did have a kind of life-changing moment when I was in college, and a family friend described a ghost that I'd seen but never told anyone about. So I knew then that I wasn't crazy. And that was great on the one hand, but also it was pretty scary because that did mean it was real. And I really didn't have the tools to handle it. So shut it out. In terms of like the whole picture of me, I've always been very creative. Like ever since I was young, I was like, I'm going to be a singer, I'm going to be an actress, I'm going to model, I'm going to do these things. And, society, I think, really shuts people down. Even when it's like, no, you're not, you don't know, which I think is so ridiculous. We all know, like in our deepest hearts, we know for ourselves. But I went through this journey of like, okay, what is it that you're kind of quote unquote supposed to do in life? So I shut down my psychic abilities. I did all the things that you're supposed to do, marriage, check, nice house, check, advanced degree, check, government job, or, whatever that job is for you, check. And then I just hit this point in my life where everything fell apart. And for me, that happened during the recession. And, it wasn't, of course, just me. A lot of people were going through that. And I think this is happening for a lot of people right now, this kind of realignment that happened. Like everything that was out of alignment for me showed up hard. So my marriage fell apart. I got physically sick. I lost my job, and even my whole way of living was in question at that point because of the changes in the economy. So I lost my money. So everything was a mess basically. And I went to a psychic to try to just figure out what the heck to do with my life, because I was so lost and confused at that point and emotionally devastated from the divorce that I was going through as well. And of course, without me telling her, she explained how when I shut out my psychic abilities, I shut out my intuition, which completely made sense to me and was a hard fact for me to look at, that really a lot of the mess that I was in was of my own making in that way. And so it was very hard, but I had to honor and accept that. But the sort of silver lining of that was like, oh, if I made this, I can unmake it as well and create something better. So I immediately started taking psychic development training classes, set the intention to open back up psychically. And very quickly, I had an incredible angelic visitation experience, which was incredibly comforting and changed my perspective immediately. And I knew that no matter what I was facing, that I wasn't alone. And that was huge, because everything seemed really bleak, and not just for me personally, but at that time, it was just a really depressing time. And so everything changed. I started taking the classes. And by the way, my master's degree is in poli-sci. Like, I was working in government, higher education, politics. This was very outside of like my mental concept for myself at the time. So when I started taking the classes, I was really thinking about it more as just, okay, I just need to help myself kind of get my inner navigation back on track. But pretty quickly, when I started taking the classes and we would do practice readings for people started to say, wow, you're really good at this. And people started to ask me for readings. And it became pretty clear that this was an area that I was being guided towards. So I started doing that. I also, at that time, went back into more creative work for myself, because I'd majored in theater in college and then graduated. And that's when I went to government and politics. And so it was just a realignment for me. And I think I'm still kind of expanding, especially in the creative field. But it's clear to me that the psychic piece is such a core part of my being. And even in the creative work, like, I write very quickly because I channel. Same thing with music. Like, it's definitely clear to me, like, things are coming from outside of me that I'm then, helping to bring into this world. But developing my psychic abilities have been really key to all that. And I'm so glad you talk about, being your you-est you, because I feel like so much society teaches people to just ignore parts of themselves at the very least, or completely deny who they are. And that is when you set yourself up for pain, frustration, depression, sadness, etc. And I also feel like we don't have extra parts or pieces, meaning everything that we have, all our abilities, talents, passions, are for a reason. And when we deny even a part of that, we're denying the sort of bigger picture and our gifts that we can give to the world and that also give to ourselves.
Oh my gosh, Laura, thank you for sharing. So beautiful. There's a lot in what you said. Just to kind of reflect back, it's interesting. I think so many of us do this, which is to, shut down those gifts. I mean, you did like a U-turn going to poli-sci government. I live outside of
Right.
DC, so I know that world.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm very familiar. And I have past lives in that realm, so it's very familiar for me as a soul. Like, it makes sense that I gravitated towards that, because I think
Yeah.
I know it very well.
So fascinating. And it sounds like a real kind of surrendering and allowing. And when you started to do that, that your gifts came through. Part of what I'm curious, because you talked about doing this psychic training, and I can imagine people listening like, I'd like to know how to unlock that. Are there any like tools you can share? I'm getting like, it's funny because when I do these, I can hear questions sometimes, and
Oh, good. I love that. Yeah.
I'm
Well,
hearing
you're super psychic. So yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'm hearing, it's so funny. And I realized this like maybe 3 months ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, half the time I'm hearing questions and they're not mine. And it must be
Yeah.
the
Well, that's just it. I think, when you're tapped in, everything, as a host, creative writing, all these
yeah,
things, come so much more easily because you get that guidance. So I would say the first thing is to practice and learn some basic psychic tools.
yeah,
I do psychic development training. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I do periodic group things, like I'm not sure when this is going to be released, but mid-May, I'll be doing a manifesting training, which is, yes, it's manifesting, but it's also about, using your abilities to do that. And then I teach one-on-one psychic development training, and it's literally one of my favorite things to do, because it is so powerful to see
yeah.
people tap into their abilities, learn how to navigate. And as soon as you do that, guys, it's like the easy button for your life, because you can manifest, create, follow the signs that you're getting, just to have more faith in the stuff that you're taking. And I would just say, do a lot of reading, follow your gut and whatever feels kind of interesting and exciting to you. So when I was starting to delve into this world myself, I was like a sponge, and I literally read a book every 1 or 2 days about this stuff. I have 7 books, so you can even just read those. My book, Diary of a Psychic, has specific exercises that you can do, so if you read it, and then you can just kind of run yourself through those exercises, and then of course, practice the guided meditations.
Yep.
In particular, it's a very powerful actual psychic exercise. So I have a bunch of meditations on Insight Timer. I also have a 30-day meditation program on my website, which is healingpowers.net. So that's a really powerful thing to do, because while you're kind of running through that, and some of them are mine are like angel meditations, you're basically connecting with those beings and practicing using your own abilities. And I would say, just to start, because it's really unfortunate in our society, we don't get the psychic ABCs. Like, we don't learn about this. And so I get a lot of students come in and we start practicing. I'm like, you are so friggin' psychic, but they've just never practiced it. And like, if you had an amazing talent as an artist, or a musician or something, but you never were exposed to music or paints or anything, like, what could you do? You've never tried it before. So I really encourage everyone to do that, whether or not you intend to be a psychic. It's just for your own life. It is so powerful.
Oh, that's so great. And we'll make sure to have in the show notes links and your book and books, I should say, the 7 books. Oh my God, it's amazing. Do you think everybody has psychic abilities? Like, I've heard different answers, but like, I know we all have intuition. Do you think intuition is different? This is so fun, by the way. That was actually now my question.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think everyone does have it, but it's like many things, there's a range of natural ability.
Yep.
So, everyone can make some kind of drawing, or, have some kind of athletic ability. But there is a very big range. And I think there's your own natural ability. And then there's also, just, we were talking about training.
Yeah.
So there's some people that maybe don't even have a ton of natural ability, but if they really practice and work at it, they can still really, develop it into something very powerful. So just because you don't automatically think like, oh, I have, psychic abilities, and it's a strong word. It's taken me a while to get used to that word.
Yes.
I was like, I'm an intuitive reader, or do spiritual things or whatever. And I think this is very common. And then eventually I was like, I'm just going to say I'm a psychic, just because I feel like at least people outside of that, of the sort of psychic development realm, understand it. And I really do feel that I'm here to help mainstream connect with this. And psychic is just very clear what it is. Of course, there's a lot of different ways it manifests. And there are abilities where, like, for example, if you're empathic, an empath is someone who feels energy and emotion from outside their body in their body. You may not even realize that that's a psychic ability. You're just feeling stuff from everyone all the time. And you just think, oh, that's just how I am. I just feel stuff. And you don't recognize, oh, that's actually psychic ability. I'm taking in that energy from other people and feeling it. And not everyone is that way. So, and then my mom, for example, is very psychic, but it wasn't until I started taking psychic development classes, and she started to take some of my classes that I then started to teach, just I think out of curiosity to see what I was doing. And she was super psychic. She'd get these things like, oh, I didn't get much but this, blah, blah, blah. And she just pour out this thing. You're like, oh my God, that's like so specific. And, so, just because you haven't, experienced it yourself doesn't mean that you aren't, you just maybe haven't like tapped into.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautifully said. I love that. And kind of like, exactly, we all have different ranges. And I would imagine too, the different, hearing, seeing, feeling, like we all have different, maybe dominant ways of receiving information. Do you see it that way too?
Absolutely. Just the same thing as in our physical bodies. Like, some people have really amazing eyesight, and some people an amazing ear. Those people tend to gravitate towards music or something like that. And so it does, go that way. Sometimes there's a correlation between what you see or sense in the physical and in the psychic, and sometimes not. Like, I'm very developed as a clairvoyant. I see a lot, and then my physical vision is better than 20/20 as well. But that's not always the same. It could be opposite. You could have, multiple things going on. So seeing, hearing, feeling. One of the ones that I think is very confusing for people is claircognizance, where you just know.
Yeah.
You know things and you can't explain it. And so a lot of people, they dismiss it, or they don't recognize that being a psychic ability. With me, because I saw things, it was very clear that there was something going on. When I was growing up, for example, I would see ghosts that looked so solid to me that they looked like a live person. In fact, I didn't always know that someone was a ghost until they do something like walk through a door or disappear or like fuzzed out and I couldn't see their feet or something, And so like it was very clear to me there was something going on, that whether I was crazy or whether I was picking up on something that others didn't, that I was different, there was no question. But for a lot of people, because it's more subtle, or they haven't kind of put two and two together, they haven't practiced it, they may not realize just how strong their abilities are.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because it has never appeared that way for me. I get vision, but it's an image in my mind's eye, or I definitely have known things and I have no idea why, or I hear a lot, but I have not seen an image like that. That's fascinating.
And it's more rare. That's definitely not as common. The more common is to see it in your mind's eye or your third eye, but that's actually, I think, the most powerful. And honestly, that when I was seeing things in the physical realm, it always was usually really confusing for me. So it made it hard for me, because I just was trying to figure out what's what. And it really wasn't until I got my training and really practiced it and learned to call things in at will, and learned about different kind of energy vibrations of different beings and how to have energy boundaries, that a lot of this, made sense to me. I just was really confused for, most of my life up until that point.
That's so understandable. Yeah, it's, and I want to come back to psychic protection in a moment, because I think, and I just realized we were both on Insight Timer, and I've done one of your meditations, and I'm like, that's where I've also seen you.
Oh, which is so fun. I love that.
I'm like, I remember pressing the button with your face. That's so cool. Love it.
Oh, love it. That's great. Well, sometimes the universe is connecting us in like multiple ways. And it's happened before where people be like, I feel like I heard about you from like a bunch of different, places at the same time. So yeah, the angels are always behind the scenes, like kind of matchmaking, trying to make connections happen.
You talked about the other side earlier, and I think, again, now I'm hearing that would be great to talk about what does that look like? What does that feel like? What do you mean by that? Let's like go into, what is the other side when you say that, like all things the other side, Laura?
Sure. Well, I mean, the other side is amazing. So first of all, I just want to share that. And I feel like it's really unfortunate right now because there's so much fear of death. And I'm like, guys, it's amazing over there. Don't fear this. I mean, don't be in a hurry to go over there. But on the other hand, when you're there, gosh, I mean, like every single person that I've connected with, for example, who's had a near-death experience, they don't want to come back because it's so amazing. It's this very consistent theme. It's such a loving, wonderful place. We do work, on the other side as well, but the feeling there is so much of just love, positive energy, support, and we manifest, pretty instantly there. So you can kind of create these incredible places in your experience. And I think that's one of the hardest things about manifesting here, is that sometimes it just feels like it takes so long because, for safety reasons, you don't want to think about a lion and then you immediately get eaten. Like there's some reasons why we have to manifest a little bit more slowly here. But it's just a wonderful place. And I think when we go over there, we connect with our true soul essence. We are on a bigger picture. We see our other lives. We connect with those we're connected with on a soul level. And I think it's hard for us because we're so in this. It's almost like being in a video game and you don't know that you're playing a video game and that it's a game.
Right.
Like if you were to just imagine you're in it, you're just living it. But then it ends and you're like, oh, I was just in that role. So like for myself, my sort of soul true self is this like spiritual warrior. Like my soul personality is male, warrior, fighter. And then, but I've always known, like ever since I can remember, like paying attention to stuff, that like this is what I'm to look like for my soul purpose in this life. This is like my lifetime costume in a way, if you think about it like that. And so when you go to the other side, you see the whole picture, you understand why things happen. When we're in our incarnation, we maybe don't understand, why did we have to go through that painful or suffering thing? Or, why did this global thing have to happen? And then we go to the side and we're like, I get it now. And so just to know there's so much happening that we don't understand. It's not always for us to understand everything. Although when you tap into your psychic abilities, you really start to get a better understanding of the bigger picture. And it's very comforting, because before I started to do this, I was one of those people that like anyone who is in pain and suffering, I was like right there with them. As an empath, I was like, homeless person on the side of the road, and anyone. And now I understand, okay, these are things are happening for a soul reason, for karmic reason. And it doesn't help them for me to also suffer. So I think learning this bigger picture of, our place, and, there's a book I recommend called Your Soul's Plan. I interviewed the author on my podcast where it talks all about that. Like, why do people choose? Why would they even plan something really painful, like to get AIDS or be born into an abusive situation, or, whatever, all these different situations, but there is a reason. And when we're on the stand, we see that, all of that, but it's just too much for us to process here.
Yeah.
When we're incarnated.
So fascinating. I like could go on forever because I'm so curious. You have ways to for those listening to access the other side. What are, is it, so I would imagine elder, loved ones that have transitioned, other aspects of ourself, higher dimensions. Would you maybe just share a little more, like, how do you access that, and what is the other side in terms of, is that just transitioned loved ones, or is it like all pure positive energy?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, loved ones are there, but it's very comprehensive, and definitely there is work that happens on the other side. So it's so fascinating because there is that, I don't know if you've heard that expression, as above, so below.
Yes.
I feel like everything is mirrored above and below, like things are happening in both planes. So like, for example, I channel a lot of celebrities who have passed on. And one consistent message I get is that they're still working on their creative projects from the other side.
Wow.
But they have to partner with people here. So you see this occasion where there'll be a weird movie. Like when I was in middle school, there's two movies called about the lambada dance that came out. Like, that's so weird. It was such a specific, weird thing that they both, and I'm like, oh, that's the different, spirits on the other side trying to get that to come in. So they're trying to bring it through the people that are here incarnated, and then we're working, and then we're partnering with them and their support and assistance as well. So it's a very collaborative process. And I've definitely done readings, done mediumship with connecting with loved ones on the other side, where they're telling me about the different things that they're working on. So they do have projects and assignments that they work on. And sometimes there's things more independent, sometimes it's with a big group. And the same thing happens, like, big groups of souls will incarnate in the same country, in the same family, working on the same thing together.
Oh, wow. Well, it just made me think. I've had this feeling. So I grew up, my mom was really into Louise Hay, and I grew up reading and listening to her. And, I was like into this at like age 10, which was just not so cool.
Not typical. Yeah.
No, not typical, not cool. My best friends was like, you have had this, like, I am me, I am okay, and like personal, like, love thing, like, that you've been working on since you were like 9. I'm like, oh. And I'd always, it's funny, I'm just sharing, I'd always wanted, I just really wanted to meet her. We're all human, and I know she was a human being as well. However, I love what she did for the whole world of human potentiality and personal development and all of that. And when she passed, when she transitioned, I was like so sad. And then I had this feeling of, I can connect with her probably.
Oh yeah. Oh, much better. Cause you just reach out and they're there. And if you feel connected with her, it's probably because you were soul connected with her. You already had a connection, and sometimes that connection gets made in this physical life, and sometimes it doesn't, but that doesn't mean that you're, any less connected. Or in fact, and when I tune into her energy, I feel like she's quite happy on the other side as well.
Yeah. I don't sense a need to come back. I'll just imagine her, and I don't exactly, my energy around her is always like, she's doing great. I just would love her support as I do things in the world that I think she would have supported. So I'm
right.
bring that in. Anyhow, it's interesting. I was just doing that because I'm like, why not? I mean, the worst that can happen is nothing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and I think that, we all should do that. Reach out to different people that we feel are leaders, in the spiritual realm, because again, they're trying to make things happen. And when we ask for their help, they often will, help us. And then also we can help them with their projects and move things forward. So yeah, it's really cool. When some of these celebrity spirits started to show up for me, and I now realize that we're connected on a soul level, but I was like, why is Abraham Lincoln or like Frank Sinatra here, or Jim Morrison? I was like, what's going on? It's really weird. But those are some of the first spirits that showed up for me. And now I'm like, oh, we're soul group connected.
Wow. I was going to ask you, do you have any very, iconic, wonderful celebrities that have come through that have shared like what they're working on, or I don't know. It's kind of fun to hear.
Yeah, I have a whole book that's it's probably not this year. I'm sitting on it because I feel like I might do some television connected with it, but I have a book that I've written that is all celebrity channeled messages. Uh, so Marilyn Monroe was one of the first ones to come forward for me, and this was before I even thought of myself as a psychic. I just really didn't understand what was going on. I probably middle school when I first started connecting with her, and then into high school more as well. And
Wow.
what's interesting about Marilyn is I really felt like it was her kind of core personality, not her media personality
Yeah.
that was coming. It was not the Marilyn showy, flashy. It was like the kind of quiet,
Mm.
reserved self. And she basically was just trying to give me guidance and saying, don't make some of the mistakes that I made, in particular with men. And I'm sure,
Mm.
as I progressed, I definitely made some of those mistakes as well. But that's part of my journey. But I feel like she's kind of like a soul sister. She's one I've channeled quite a few times, and every time I connect with her, it just feels lovely. She's such a sweet, sweet soul.
Mm.
One that I've connected with recently, which was such a strong experience, was Amy Winehouse.
I just was thinking of her. That's crazy. Yep.
Yeah, well, you're very psychic, so you picked up on that. I'm
Oh,
sure
that was weird.
saying
Yeah.
hi. Yeah, she
Mm.
she's definitely one of those spirits that's wanting to continue her work even from the other side. And I was doing some channeling of her at the request of a television producer, and I recorded it on video. And when I did that, it was just amazing because this is not like this happens all the time, but she came through and I could just really feel her, emotion, and I started crying on camera. And she's such a powerful soul, really working still to create, and her, I think one of her biggest messages, especially for women, is to, similar to Marilyn, not give their power away.
Yeah.
To love themselves. Like we deserve love. We deserve to be treated well. And yeah, really powerful. So if there's anyone who you feel a strong connection with, again, I encourage you to reach out to them. All you have to do is think about them, invite them in, and that's one of the things. Like if you're interested in doing that, I've taught celebrity channeling and like how to do it, and it's really fun and like so interesting when it comes through.
That is so, so amazing. I just, and I love, everyone listening, like you just try it. I've
Yeah.
been doing this a lot. I didn't meet my grandfather, but I was named after him. I was right around his birthday. It's
Mm.
something I've been, and that has been one of the biggest gifts as my, how would you say it? Belief quotient and trust
Mm-hmm.
quotient has
Yeah.
risen. Because I saw that when I didn't fully believe it, it's like harder for it to come in. But I
Yes,
got to tell you,
totally.
he comes to me now, when I remember to ask. It's really, really cool because I feel like I have this amazing person that loves me that I didn't even get to meet, but it doesn't matter. And so I love what you were saying just about whether it's, celebrity or it could be even a loved one.
Yeah, just reach out. And the feeling of disconnection is really from our side because they feel very connected with us. We're in a, strange as it may sound, we're very much like in a fishbowl down here. Like, we're being watched, and there's so many, beings connecting with us, and that can come in and see what's going on. And so it's just for us to reach out and feel that sense of connection for ourselves. And I recommend getting some kind of habit to do that. So for me, it's like,
Yeah.
every night before I go to bed, I do some manifesting exercises and then thank my angels and guides and just say hello. Maybe if you're a morning person, that would be a morning time. It doesn't really matter when, but I think at least once a day to take a moment to just kind of check in, see if you're getting any messages,
Mm.
have gratitude, ask for help. It's a wonderful thing to do. And it's one of those things. It's not even about the time. Like you could literally spend a few minutes doing it, and like the results and impacts will be so huge if you do it consistently.
Mm. I'm with you on evening. It's funny. I naturally do this before I go to bed.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit with the manifesting, or what you were saying with the habit before you go to bed. Maybe if you don't mind just sharing one or two of your practices. Cause I now I'm hearing like, well, I want details. I want specifics. So
Yeah. And by the way, that manifesting event that I'm doing is in a couple of weeks, and we'll
oh,
run through everything if everyone wants to participate. It's just $44, so it's really nominal fee, and everyone will get the recording. But yeah, there's several exercises that I recommend. So much of it is about attention setting. I think there are some tips that are generally important. Think about what you want, not what you don't want. Feel it and envision it in the present as much as you can.
Yeah.
Ask for help. I think that's one of the big things. I love the idea of the secret and everything, but I think when you invite your angels and spirit guides in and ask them for help, that's, for a lot of people, that's a magic ingredient, because we do have blocks and, maybe challenges with faith and belief. And when we ask for their help, and also specifically help with releasing those blocks and beliefs that are blocking, it makes it shift much faster than just doing the manifesting exercises on our own. So thinking, envisioning what you want. Another powerful thing that I think is probably really helpful for people right now with everything in coronavirus lockdown is, okay, what are some pain points in your life? Thinking about what is it that isn't working for you, and then brainstorm some solutions. What can you shift? And just put it out there and start to see. It's amazing how quickly I found, like, I will literally do this, and I do this every night, so unless something crazy is going on in my schedule, but how quickly some of these things will come in, like bam, next day, and it might not have seemed like something that could have been resolved that quickly.
This is amazing, Laura. What I love about what you're saying, this is what I love about all of this. These are literally laws that we don't change of how the universe works. So this is for everyone. This is a big one for me because, and I think this is something it's an area I'm really interested in writing about next. And I think you've talked about it as well, as it can be very easy. It's hard because we're in this land of duality. So we see this person who's doing that, and this accomplishment, it's like staying in your lane and calling in help and staying in that place of gratitude, but also setting your intentions. It can be very easy to go to that voice of like, how the heck am I going to do that? Or who am I to do that? And I think what I love that you're saying is that this works for everybody.
It does. Yeah.
Everything for, infinite amount of whatever we're desiring for everyone, which is a whole different way of looking at it. But I love this.
Yeah. And I want everyone to know that manifesting is like a muscle. It's something you develop and you get better at it and stronger. So when I first started, I think I always had a pretty strong ability to manifest, but like the stuff I bring in now is like way bigger and more powerful, because I think a lot of it is just, I believe it and I have faith, but just start out and gradually work your way up to bigger things. And I also I'm getting to say one thing, which is, don't be a crab. I don't know if you know that idea of like how crabs operate.
You know what, can you share? Because I'm like, I know the crab walk. I don't like doing that. It's an exercise movement. And my head just went to like, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe tell us more. That's cool.
If you have like a bucket of crabs, like literally the crabs from the ocean, and one tries to crawl out, the other crabs will pull that crab back in.
Oh, I love this. Yeah.
And I feel like this is really important because I think this is how a lot of people operate, and it's really damaging and destructive.
Yes.
Instead of like, someone's doing well, I'm jealous of that person, I want to pull them down so I feel better, we're all in this kind of stuck together. Let someone rise up, and maybe they'll reach a hand down and pull you up too. That's a much healthier pattern. And so I see this a lot of like with jealousy, and I think people are really being triggered right now, again, especially with everything happening. If someone has something that you don't want, instead of being jealous and like wanting to take that away, be like, wait, if it's for them, it means I can have it too. How do I also reach that? And if you're surrounded by a lot of people that are acting in that crab mentality, I encourage you to take a step back, try to connect with people that are more loving and supportive, because it's hard when everyone's around you to get up and out, because everyone's trying to pull you down.
Yeah.
And if you are fighting that within yourself, that tendency, ask your angels and spirit guides to help, and then ask them to help you release any limiting beliefs or false beliefs about what's possible for you.
Yes.
Because inherently that idea, it usually stems from like, that person's getting out and I can't. And therefore, which is fake. That's, if someone else can, that means it's possible. If someone else has amassed a certain amount of wealth, or is in an incredibly loving and supportive relationship, or, fill in the blank, whatever that trigger is for you, if they can have it, so can you. And it should be a very empowering thing, instead of you feeling, bad or negative towards that person that has what you perceive that you don't have.
I'm so glad you said that, Laura. I mean, that is one of the reasons I do this entire show, is to create that, the opposite effect. I don't know what the opposite of a crab is, but whatever it would be, to like take hands and pull them out. And
the upward, the teamwork, the rising tide lifts all ships. Like,
yes,
as one of us goes up, we all do.
Yes.
Yeah.
to me, and I've really learned to teach myself this when I see somebody. I had recently interviewed Mama Gina, who is just this badass, incredible woman leader that has just revolutionized like women tuning into pleasure and their heart and their, femininity. And, she's I think in her 60s. And I was just, you could think like, oh my God, how am I going to be like this? And I was like, man, that is the most inspiring, I should say woman, that is the most inspiring thing. Like listening to you too. It's like changing that language to, wow, that inspires me so much. And I love what you said. I really believe that when someone else is doing it, and if you feel that envious jealousy piece, you could flip it by saying that shows what's possible. And if I have that in me, that desire, then that's possible.
Yeah, a lot of times when you look at it that way, our jealousies are pointing us to what we really want and what we can have. So it's just, we get into trouble when we believe the negative societal messages about what's possible for us or not. And every single person who's achieved, those great things that we desire has passed through so many people telling them it's not possible. I guarantee that. So whether that's Lady Gaga or Sir Richard Branson or whoever, Oprah, whoever it is that you really look up to or where you'd like to achieve something similar, they have all overcome great adversity, whether it's being dyslexic or being sexually assaulted or born poor and not of the appropriate ethnicity according to society, whatever that is.
Totally.
That we all have those hurdles, and when we follow and honor our true soul's desire, if we just can keep following it and not get suppressed by negative ego talk, societal messages, that's when the real magic happens.
This has been amazing. I want to make sure we leave a little room if there's anything else you want to share, but I do need to ask, because I brought it up earlier, you brought it up, and I think it's important, this idea of psychic protection, energy, protecting our energy. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about that or any wisdom or tips? Because
absolutely.
I think it's an important one that many of us don't really even understand or know how to do.
It is so important. So I think there's boundaries, psychic and spiritual and energetic boundaries. And this is just as important as having physical boundaries. Like you don't, let just anyone into your house or anyone, just touch your body or sexually interact with you if they want to, So we really need these spiritual boundaries just as much, if not more, than our physical boundaries. So it's important to ask for protection. I work a lot with Archangel Michael. He's a wonderful protector. So just definitely recommend for everyone to mentally reach out to Archangel Michael and ask him for assistance with establishing and having, strong protection in your life. And you can extend that to your home, your car. Whenever I drive, I ask for protection from him, and Archangel Raphael is for traveling. So doing that, and then anytime you feel unsafe or feel like there's something that's concerning you, definitely call on them extra at that time. I also recommend calling on them before you go to sleep at night to protect your psychic space while you're sleeping. And also just to know there is a very strong connection between the physical realm and the spiritual realm. So when we have poor spiritual boundaries, it affects our physical life and vice versa. So we can increase our spiritual boundaries by having better boundaries with the people in our lives. So the analogy I give to people is our mind, our lives, and our energy fields are very much like a Netflix queue. Are you familiar with, you watch Netflix?
A little bit. I've just started with this whole pandemic. It's actually been kind of a fun thing. I didn't used to watch TV, and I'm like, I love Netflix. Yeah.
Okay, great. So like Netflix or I know, maybe Hulu or whatever does it too, but basically, when you watch something, underneath it'll be like recommended for you or whatever. There's other things. So whatever you actively are choosing in your life, the universe sends you more like that. And so it's just really important to keep that in mind, because a lot of people think they want one thing, but what they're choosing is not that. And what are you going to get? You're going to get what you choose all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just really important to pay attention to the choices that you're making. Is what I'm choosing what I want? If not, what do I need to start shifting, clearing, releasing? And this is why, that sort of spiritual relationship, physical housekeeping is so important. Releasing relationships that no longer serve you, releasing belongings that no longer serve you. Make room for the things that you want and actively choose what it is that you want. If you have, old belongings that are the wrong size, soiled, just don't even suit you anymore. Maybe your personal taste or where you want to be. Maybe they just aren't, maybe they aren't where you aspire to be, let those things go. So I think that's really important. And it is again, a process. And a lot of these things become like a bicycle. So like riding a bicycle, like at first you have to really focus on it. And like a lot of the stuff I just kind of do automatically now.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm constantly always having to really focus on it. It's just such an automatic part of my process. So it becomes easier over time.
Oh my gosh. Fantastic. There is so much goodness here. I feel like I'm handing everyone a basket of like the best high gourmet goodies. Like I'm getting just a basket of goodness.
Oh, well, I just want to share one other analogy because I'm getting from the guide to do, which is that our minds, our lives are also very much like a garden, that, when you start out, let's say you just get a piece of land, there'll be a lot of weeds and kind of whatever randomly is in there. You have to cultivate your garden, your life, your spirituality to create what you want. So whether that's an orchard or a lot of flowers or fruits and vegetables, it's up to you to cultivate and create that and continuously pull out what it is that you don't want. Weed your garden all the time. Now, when the hardest part is when you're first setting something up, when you're first setting up your plot of land and pulling out the weeds. And then when you're maintaining and you've already put in that work, it gets a lot easier. So I think what's happening right now is a lot of people they're basically kind of starting over. They're like, well, that crop didn't work or whatever. Right. That didn't manifest how I wanted. Let's start over. So just know this is the hardest part, is when you're just starting and kind of establishing what you want, but don't give up. Like, just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's not going to bear incredible fruit for you later.
I love it.
Keep working on it.
Such a great analogy. Just to add really quick, because I can be one of those people that's like, is it like growing? And you don't want to like pick out, pull up the seeds either. Like,
yeah. Is
it growing? Did I do it right? That tends to be my thing. Did I do it right? I probably did it wrong. I probably need to redo it. Let me see. And then no.
And by the way, literally planting seeds, I think, is a wonderful way to kind of remind you of that constantly.
Yeah.
Like I just recently planted and there were some of these seeds it just seemed like they took so much longer to grow. Like my peppers specifically, like everything else was like 3 inches tall or whatever. And it still hadn't come up from the soil. And I was like, are you guys going to sprout? And I think in our lives, we tend to do that. We're like, is anything going to happen here? And we just need to have patience. And like, if you try to pull it out, then you may stop it completely. Like you need to let it, keep the faith and keep it going.
Gosh, such a good, I'm in the camp. I could always work on patience. Like my patience getting a little bigger, but
honestly, also older, more powerful souls, it's harder for us because we're used to being on the other side a lot, and we're used to that kind of instant, and it's not like that here. And sometimes it just feels like, oh, so slow.
Yeah.
But it does manifest more quickly with practice.
That made me feel a little better. I'm like, okay, because it does feel like, what the heck? I can see it. I can see it in my mind's eye. Where the heck? Like, why isn't it here?
Yeah, totally.
Good, great. These are such good tips. Laura, before we wrap, is there anything else, either channeled message, wisdom, or anything that you want to share about what you're doing right now that we didn't yet cover in these last few minutes?
Yeah, just that, I think you can really do and be whatever you want. And most of what we're tend to try to pursue is what is kind of like the safe, I put that in quotes, safe, goal, dream, or desire. I find a lot of people really kind of like not ratchet down their dreams or visions for themselves to make something that is more societally acceptable, or maybe makes their circle more comfortable. And I think what more people are afraid of, rather than it being a success or a failure, is, what happens if I really am that big, that powerful? And it can feel a little scary, and it can bring up a lot of concerns or feelings of loss of love. And what I would say about if you're concerned about being your truest, biggest, brightest version of yourself, and you feel like you're going to lose love, that's not really love. And those people don't really love you, because those that really love you are going to love you for all and everything that you are and support you in the journey. That's true love. And, don't hold on to this kind of pale imitation of love because that's all you've felt or experienced, for the fear of the loss of it, because there's probably way more behind your stepping into your You-est you version
Yeah,
of yourself. So yeah, just wanted to say that. And then if people want to connect with me, my psychic website is healingpowers.net. My company is Healing Powers. You can find my podcast, Healing Powers Podcast. Julie's going to be a guest on mine here very shortly.
Yay.
And my social media channels are Healing Powers on Facebook. And then on Instagram, I'm Laura Powers 44, which is 44 is an angel number. So you can connect with me there as well. And feel free to email me if you're curious about psychic development classes, whatever, bookings at laurapowers.net.
Awesome. And I wanted to share, you probably aren't driving when you're listening. I always say, don't take notes when driving. But we'll have it in the show notes too, because if you didn't catch that, okay, we'll have everything. I want people to be able to find you. And how cool is that your last name is Powers? It's perfect.
Oh, it's so fun. I think our names are no accident. And when I was researching, my second book was about angels. I was researching angelology, the hierarchy of angels, and there's an order of angels called the Powers angels. And when I was reading about them, and I was already working as a psychic at that point, and I just got goosebumps everywhere, because one of the things that the Powers angels do is monitor the celestial byways to make sure souls get to where they need to go. And that is one of the things I do with my, I do space clearings and ghost whispering and that kind of thing. And I remember reading that and I was like, wow, that's so crazy. And my middle name is Michelle, which is the female version of Michael. So he's one of my main guys. And then my first name is Laura, which it stands for the laurel wreath, and it means victorious one. So I think when we really connect in with our names, there often, is deep meaning there. And for example, if you have an angel name, you're definitely connected with angels. So
Right.
Gabriel, Raphael, etc.
Right. Or angel.
Yeah. Or angel, Angela. Right. Yeah. Angelo, etc. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, this has been beyond delightful. You are just, you're such a radiant light. And I hope if you guys are listening, you also watch this too, so you can see Laura, the light, and kind of see the interaction, because you really ooze that. You really do.
Thank you. Well, I would say the same for you as well. Kindred soul for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura. This was awesome.